Hey everyone, so this is this week's tiara, and this is the honeycomb bee tiara for with UV resin that I made, and I really like this one. It's a lot of fun. I like the gold accents and everything. But how I came up with this idea is I got a Sophie and Toffee box. This is the March Elves box, and I usually get just the standard box, but it was the honeycomb bee box. And in the honeycomb bee box, it had some colored jewelry LED resin, and it had this mold right here. And the other thing I used from this box was a container of their gold leaf. So this is a UV resin mold. So all you had to do, I used, let's see, where are they? This one and this one. And that's it from this whole thing. There's honey pots and some other dripping. There's another honey pot. There's some bees. So there's a bunch of different molds here, but I just used the ones that I thought would work, and it was this. There's also connectors on here. I didn't use the connectors. If it kind of melted into there, I just cut them off. But yeah, so this is colored LED resin. All you have to do is put it in the mold and then put this under a UV light, which I just have a 35-watt nail light that I did it. There are both shapes. So you can see there's the three honeycombs, and they're mostly behind. So there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the 3 honeycombed ones. And then there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the ones with the smaller 5-point honeycomb pieces. So how I did this is once I created all the UV pieces, I started laying out the tiara. I needed some height so that I could attach them to something. So I put this piece, I wired it on. And then I got some small fans and I wired those on. So this is a nice strong base for the honeycomb. And then I used a 2-part epoxy and started attaching the honeycomb. And I did that 3-piece honeycomb down the backs for a support. And then I started adding the pieces in random shapes so that we got this look that I was going for. Once that was done, I did use a little bit of gold paint to kind of accentuate the gold. You can't see it very much, but it did add a little tooth. And then I have a gilding glue from, I think it's Martha Stewart Crafts. I just bought it at the craft store years ago. And this is what I put on the piece, let it dry, and then I added in the gold leaf. So that's what that is. And there's a few spots that the honeycombs aren't perfect because there were bubbles in the mold, but I don't think it really makes a big difference. And then finally, what I did is I added some gray rhinestones. I had some yellow, but the yellow were so big for this piece. I didn't think it looked right, and I know that a lot of people like that gray and gold combination, so I thought the gray Swarovskis would be perfect for this. And then finally, what I did was, you could still see a lot of the metal work at the bottom. I moved up the honeycomb a little too much, and so I just added some crystals at the bottom to take your eye away from the filigree that was behind it. So there's just a kind of line of filigree and wire work that goes along here. It's just kind of messily done, but I thought that these gold honeycomb colors would be a good complement. And you can see a little bit of filigree coming through, but I don't think it detracts from the piece itself. So let me just show you the back one more time. The filigree was wired on to the base, and then these two were attached on the back side, and then the rest of the honeycomb is on the front. They're the 3 pieces, the 3 honeycomb pieces at the bottom, and then the rest of them were attached in different layers for dimension dimension. And then the gold was added, the gold leafing and the crystals. And I actually ran out of this jewelry resin, and so the last couple I made was just with a regular Sophie and Toffee their UV resin with a little bit of the gold pigment powders. I've had these for years, and you can tell, and they're just little pots. I just used a gold pigment and added it into the UV resin, and then used that to make the last of the honeycomb that I didn't have enough of this gold in, which it feels like this is kind of like the same stuff. It's got a little bit of pigment in there. It's not too thick, it's not too opaque, and that's it. So let me just show this one more time. Like I said, a 2-part epoxy. I use a 5-minute epoxy. Would probably work really well to glue these. That's what I used. I wouldn't recommend anything like a E6000, but this works pretty well. All right, thank you.